just going to add Emma in. It might cut out because it likes to do that, but we are still here. So hopefully, fingers crossed, all goes well. Let me add her in now. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens.
I've got my fingers crossed.
Hi.
I'm here.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm at the yard in my happy place.
In your happy place. Is it cold?
It is quite cold, actually. Yeah, it's not as cold as it has been, but maybe the wind makes it feel a bit chillier.
Yeah. It's been quite windy recently, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And it brings all the cold. It's like,
yeah.
Right, so can you just introduce yourself for those that maybe don't know you?
I'd love to. Thank you so much. So yeah, I'm Emma Gray. I was a wills and probate lawyer for many, many years. And then sadly my husband died in 2016 of cancer. So I actually kept my job going and went back to work afterwards, but then decided that I was kind of doing two jobs badly. But because we'd planned, I had the kind of grace to be able to take and the financial freedom to take a little bit of a pause. So ironically, I took a pause to spend more time with my children, work my notice period so I could hand over all my clients and everything like that. And 2 weeks after I had handed over the last file and walked out the office, we went into lockdown, and I was like, oh my word.
Like, that's what you want.
Yeah, I wanted to spend time with the kids, but I am not a teacher.
No.
I think like many parents, I realised I am not a teacher. So I then had a bit of a crisis in lockdown because I was no longer a lawyer, and bizarrely when I stopped being a lawyer I realised that I was quite proud of having been a lawyer. I wasn't a wife because I was a widow, but I didn't want to be a widow. I've never been very good at just being a parent. I've always needed to have something else. So I initially started to kind of share my story and retrain as a counsellor, but I'm actually a coach. So I work quite therapeutically, but I don't do the really serious mental health stuff that counsellors would do. I'm more forward focused and around two things really. So my Rainbow Hunting company focuses on kind of courses and workshops and one-to-one sessions which help people to do what I call grow life around grief. Because the grief doesn't go, but it doesn't mean we can't create a beautiful life around it, and sort out the paperwork, which I call the SADMIN. So either ours, wills and powers of attorney and all the rest of it, or when someone dies, their paperwork and the probate and all the rest of it, because I used to do that as my day job.
So it's just something that's just kind of, you already knew anything about it. It wasn't something that was a complete flip and you was doing something completely new when everything happened.
Yeah. Well, and I sat down, it's really fascinating actually, because I sat down and analysed like what part of my job I loved. And I loved the fact that no two people that walked in the door were the same. For some reason, people love to tell me their story. So I've always said nothing surprised. I tell you something, nothing surprises me now. Some of the stories I've heard, I don't know whether it's because I had the label of solicitor, I don't know, but some of the stuff that came out of the woodwork, I was like, God blimey, right, yeah, we can navigate that, that's fine. And I loved the fact that we would kind of pick through their issues, and then at the end of it we would have worked out a plan, and they'd have to review their will and their paperwork and all the rest of it, but basically they could get on and live their life. And what I didn't enjoy was the drafting and the accounts and keeping up with the law and all that kind of stuff, especially as I now know I've got ADHD, so that was like putting me close to burnout. So yeah, it's been a journey, as they say.
It's been a journey. So I would imagine with regards to your husband, obviously, please, you don't have to answer anything if it's too much for you or whatever. Was it a case of that he was quite poorly for a while? So mental health wise, I would imagine that takes the toll, because from what I can imagine, you feel quite helpless.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot you can do.
I think helpless is really quite accurate actually, because there's this ginormous thing that's cancer that's careering towards you and it's going to turn your world upside down, but at the time you don't necessarily know how, and sometimes you don't even know how you're going to get through it. You just know that you've got no option. But he was sadly, and the one thing I'd say is I'm really conscious we're very close to Christmas, so if any of this is too much for people, I would literally just park it and come back and watch it when you're feeling a little bit stronger, because
100%.
my whole life revolves around death and grief, and it's very everyday for me. But I know, hello.
This is my eldest. He loves to get involved.
Oh, I love it. Have you got a rainbow t-shirt on? Now there's a very
You
important question.
do today, don't
That's
you?
very, very cool. I love it. That is very cool. That is very cool. I do love that. What was I saying? My brain has stopped temporarily. Yeah, so
about
just
your
take care of
husband.
yourself watching it.
Yeah.
And the mental health. So it was really hard for us, because from day one, we knew that he was terminal, but because his body was his job, he told the people he needed to at work, and we told the people that had to know in our little circle. But he didn't really want people knowing. So he wanted to try and fight it as best he treated it like another battle,
Yeah.
you know, like only a Royal Marine would. And so it was just something that he wanted to fight, he wanted to get through, he wanted to do the best he can, and his job was really important to him. So I think his job was what kept him going. And I think sometimes it's being mindful, you know, you can look from the outside and say, well, actually maybe you should give up work, maybe work is adding an extra burden, but for some people I think work is a necessary purpose and a distraction, and the feelings they're feeling are so massive. I think avoidance gets a really bad press, because actually avoidance and denial can be really, really important. Maybe the pain in that moment is too big, so actually to distract yourself, to do something else, to take your mind off it, is exactly what you need in that moment.
Sorry, 1 second. You get something from Max as well, please. Sorry. I'm hungry. That's all I've had for the last 3 days. I'm hungry.
I
I'm
love
hungry.
it.
I do
It's
apologise.
boys. It's
It is
boys. I
boys.
have girls and they barely eat breakfast.
No, they're constantly eating. Yeah, I think we're when I've got something going on myself mentally, careful, I withdraw. So a lot of it I just go into myself, because then I guess it might have been the same for him. It's, you can get yourself sorted in your head, then you can make your plan, figure out what it is you're going to do, where you're going to go, such and so forth. So it's easier to withdraw, because otherwise, if you've got all of these people saying, have you done this, have you done that, have you done this, it's a bit bombarding at you. How have the kids found it? How has their kind of mental health been?
I get a bit cross when people say that kids are resilient, because I think sometimes they're only resilient as the parent that's bringing them up. And it's really frustrating, but I think actually it can feel, my husband left loads. The benefit of an illness, because he was ill for 2.5 years, was that we had lots of conversations and he left lots of letters and things like that. And the benefit of an illness is that he left me with messages, and one of the ones was, you have to be happy, because the sooner you're happy, the sooner the kids are happy. And I get what he was meaning, but in the early days it felt impossible, and I felt really guilty that I couldn't be happy, and therefore it was going to have an impact on the kids. And actually, when you're in a unit, your impact does affect everybody. But I don't talk about my children a huge amount. But I think one of the things that's fascinating, because I feel like it's their story, not my story, is that children at different stages have different concept of what death and grief really is. And so my kids are now 8 years down the line. They are 14 and 16, and they're now teenagers trying to understand the grief that hit them when they were barely able to understand what death was. And going back to what you said about the withdrawing, I think there needs to be a balance, because I think, you know, yes, some of us, I do it, need to retreat away from the world and kind of almost sort through the filing cabinet of our brains and work out what's what. But I also feel that sometimes we are born to be in a tribe, and the support we can get from people who get it and who understand, even if all we're doing is saying I'm withdrawing, sometimes the comms that we have coming back to us is a real help and a real support. You know, reach out when you're ready, and we're here for you, and all the rest of it. So, and I think especially with grief, because the big thing about grief is it hurts, and as human beings, I think we're motivated by two things: seeking out pleasure and avoiding pain. And grief is painful. So when we speak to people, they want to fix it, but you can't fix it. It's,
No.
you know, your person's never coming back. And so it's actually learning how to live with it in your life, especially with Christmas around the corner.
I mean, I'm kind of I know how your kids feel. My dad died 2 weeks before my 4th birthday.
Oh my word.
So I know how your kids feel, what they've been through, and how he died from cancer as well. So he, I can't remember how old he was, 42, 44, something like that. I was 2 weeks before my 4th birthday. My brother was 10. So not the same ages as your kids, but
Similar.
But for me, I mean, now both my brother and I, and I'm not saying it's down to my dad's passing, but my brother has mental health issues. I have mental health issues. I had a lot of separation anxiety when I was younger. If my mum, she would be playing, she used to love playing field hockey, and I'd be standing on the sidelines with my brother and my grandparents. But I was like, look, I want my mum. I need my mum. I could see her, but I wasn't next to her. So I had a lot of separation anxiety when I was growing up because I didn't understand. I have blocked a lot of my childhood out. I think from the trauma. I don't remember it. I don't remember. People say, oh, do you remember 4 years old? You know, I remember my first day of primary. And I'm thinking, what do you mean you remember? I haven't got a clue. But I think from the trauma of it, I have blocked a lot of that out because he was there 1 minute and gone the next. I didn't understand.
And 4 is very little. They often say that 6 is the point at which sometimes children start to have a concept of what it really means. But 4, there's so much magical thinking. I don't know if they, you know, it's so little, and, you know, sort of, it's Christmas time, so why can't Father Christmas bring my daddy back? They just don't get it, you know, they just don't understand. And it can be really hard to navigate. I did a live the other day with Widowed and Young and Winston Swish, and actually, if anyone's really interested on how to support children and look after yourselves around Christmas, do go and check that out, and also go and check out the Winston Swish. Maybe I'll tag Winston Swish, and or you can tag Winston Swish and Way Widowed and Young. But Winston Swish also have quite a lot of support on their website on how to support children around Christmas time, because it's really hard. And the irony is that you have a coping strategy that at one point served you. So at one point, retreating and working out what was going in your head was absolutely what you needed. But I'm a big believer that grief doesn't heal in isolation. And so actually to heal from grief and to build a life where you feel safe, like often what I say to people is, what do you need to feel safe right now? Because grief can make you feel very unsafe. It can turn your world upside down, and suddenly you don't trust that someone else isn't going to drop down dead. You know, the separation anxiety possibly was that your mum might go, and then if your mum goes, what happens then? And that's such a normal worry to have, and so it's trying to put in place plans that make people and children feel safe and loved at Christmas time especially, but at any time of the year. You know, it's really, really important. I'm so sorry to hear your story, because 4 is just so little, isn't it?
It was, we were young, and it's funny you saying about how you're expecting more people to go. Like, that's my anxiety now. I catastrophize everything. So because I've lost my dad, both sets of grandparents, aunts, uncles. My husband's father passed away, you know, when he was 17. So in our family, it's kind of like, oh yeah, I'm expecting it. I'm always expecting it, quite frankly. So if someone says that they're poorly or anything, I'm thinking, yeah, okay, that's what we've got to wait for now as a funeral. But excuse me, that's just how my life has been. I'm so used to it. And my dad passed away in the October, so 2 weeks before my birthday, and then of course Christmas 2 months later. I genuinely don't know how my mum did it. I wouldn't know where to start or how to react. Exactly. He's smarter than I think he is. You guess. Okay. So how do you find if it's starting to kind of consume you again? Because grief is one of those things that you'll be fine 1 minute, and then the next minute you are all consumed, and it's the only thing that you can think about. So how do you find your way through what is your kind of strategies and how you cope with that?
So I think one of the things is finding out where your happy place is. And I quite like that we're doing this. I mean, apologies, I'm not wearing makeup and I'm not in a lovely place like you are with a nice mirror behind me and all the rest of it. Instead, I'm in a truck, which is covered in mud. And my elder daughter's just gone out on a hack with her horse. But the horses are our happy place. And I have to, especially with my busy brain, I often have to find something that will distract me but not be too taxing.
Okay.
So I find, it sounds really silly, but I find mucking out is brilliant for me in that it's enough that I have to concentrate on what I'm doing so that I can preserve all the nice straw and I bin all the nasty stuff and what have you. And if I want, I can listen to a podcast or some music while I'm doing it. But most of the time I'm in silence, and for once my brain is quiet. And for me, that's a massive relief. But also I've done quite a lot of work on I've done quite a lot of work on nervous systems. So when we're traumatized, what happens is basically our logical brain goes offline. So that's why we go into fight, flight, freeze, because we're responding from a really mammalian kind of response of like we would when we were cavemen, like running away from a tiger or something. But what happens, especially with the being hypervigilant, which I think is normal, like you were saying, you're expecting more people to die, and being like that can be exhausting. So actually, it's acknowledging that you may need more rest than other people, and it's taken me 40 plus years to realise I need more sleep than other people. I had over 9 hours sleep last night because I've had a really busy couple of days. It's been really sociable. It's worn out my social battery and I need rest. So it's really fascinating, but it's kind of like learning to ground yourself but reparent yourself. So pretend that you're the 4-year-old and what is it that you need and you love. I love it. He's keeping you entertained, isn't
That's
he?
my youngest now. It's just come up to me with a packet of crisps, like, open. Sorry.
It's like almost treating yourself like another of the kids. So when you make a drink for the kids, you make a drink for you. You know, when you think about what the kids need, you add you onto the list and what do you need. So I think so often otherwise, especially as parents, we're pre-programmed to look after everyone else and we forgot to add ourselves into that kind of like list, and I think that can be really important. So it's learning to look after ourselves rather than looking externally for that TLC. We learn to give it to ourselves, and like I said, TLC can mean different. It might be bubble baths and all the rest of it. For me, it's mucking out, but you know, we're all different, aren't we?
No, but I 100% see the logic in that, because my therapy, my go-to is to clean.
Yes.
You're just concentrating on that task at hand, and you're thinking, okay, well, I've got to clean the bathroom, so I'll do this first, and then I'll go onto the bath, and then I'll do this, and I'll do that. And so you're not thinking about anything else because you're just concentrating on the task at hand. It's not too taxing. You know what you've got to do.
And so do you know the other reason I think that cleaning is just so amazing for mental health is that when you've had something big happen in your world, it's turned your world upside down. So with the cleaning, you're providing safety and structure again. You're providing order. You're providing reliability. Do you know what I mean? And I'm a really big one that actually, when the world's been turned upside down, one of the things we need to do is to make it seem reliable and trustworthy again. So
I did some therapy beginning of the week because I've had a lot of health anxiety recently, and I like to be in control. And that's what it is. It's the control aspect of things because I can control my house. I can control. I don't like the word control because it does sound very, careful, darling, dictatorish. But it's not. But I'm in control of making sure my family is safe. So you know, I'll clean up the house. I'll make sure what we're having for dinner. I will do this and that. I like to control everything. And my husband was like, "Really? You like to be in control, do you? I'd never have known that." And I was like, "Okay, never mind." But it's that trying to grasp onto what you can control versus what you can't.
And I think then cleaning almost becomes an act of self-care because you are controlling your environment and you're controlling what's around you. And I think that's really, really important to help you feel safe and secure and all the rest of it.
So what would you kind of say to people that are feeling that they need a little extra help? I know that we can give advice to people, but it's down to them at the end of the day if they want to take it, and they're going to get advice from so many different things. They don't know where's the right way to go. But what would you say to somebody that's kind of in a bad place at the moment and just needs that little extra kind of, have you thought of this, or have you thought of doing that?
I think that we're so surrounded by shoulds, especially at this time of
Yeah.
year. You know, you should write cards, you should do presents, you should do this, you should do that, you should do the other. And I think my first thing was to acknowledge actually, what can you do? What do you need? What do you, like we were saying, what do you need to feel safe? What do you need to feel rested? What do you need to enjoy life as much as you possibly can, and to do it your way? Because actually, if you explain to people the reason I'm not coming is because I need to do this, and then most people will be sympathetic, especially if you've had something big happen in your world. And the other thing is to always remember that you may feel lonely. It's incredibly normal with any mental health, and especially with grief, to feel really, really lonely, especially if your person is no longer around. But you are not alone. You know, there are either friends and family, or if you, because you can also feel lonely when you're surrounded by people because you feel like they don't get you. But actually there will be people out there who get it. No one is going to know your experience, and like you say, the answer is inside you. The answer to resolving your issues is inside you. You may not be able to see it right now, and that's where support is amazing, because the support can add a different perspective that can help you find your answer. And at Christmas time, I think that the most amazing charities are like Mind, the Samaritans, Cruise, Bereavement Support, and they are there, and they are there to be used. They're not their numbers that people are just throwing out for the sake of throwing out. They're numbers that actually have really helped people. So if you're really struggling, reach out for help. Either friends and family or one of those numbers, and especially the Samaritans, because I think their phone line is manned over Christmas, whereas some people do have a break over Christmas.
I've when I was in my kind of teen or tween years, the one thing I contacted Samaritans. But the one thing that I liked is that you could email them. I didn't want to talk on the phone. I don't like talking on the phone. But I could email them. So I used to sit there, and they weren't silly teen things, but you just kind of like, you're going through hormones and puberty, and I've lost people in my life and this, that, and the other, and so I just emailed them. And they were amazing. They came back every time. They didn't make me feel like I was silly for reaching out to them, or that my thoughts or what I was saying was silly or anything like that. They made me feel they listened. They genuinely listened, and I will always be thankful for the Samaritans. Even though I had friends and family, but sometimes you don't know where you want to turn. So
and definitely. I think also there is a magic in having someone who's not part of your story. They're totally independent, and they can give you a very different perspective as a consequence, because all they want to do is listen to your story and help you. They're not tainted by their own version of it or anything like that. I'm so pleased you had a good experience, and I think they do text chat these days too.
Pretty sure they probably do now. But I just know that I will always, I'll forever tell people about the Samaritans, because they were incredible for me. So changing up, what are you doing for Christmas?
Oh, it's a bit of a different one for me this year, and actually one of my kids is really struggling with it. So we normally have a big Christmas at mine. I do roasts all the time, so cooking a Christmas roast is actually no drama for me. The only thing that I really love is that if I forget stuff, everyone forgives me on Christmas Day. So like last year, I decided to be new and do sprouts with little bits of bacon in the air fryer, and I discovered them on Boxing Day. I was like, oops. Oh no, never mind. We can have some slightly, they look more like raisins than sprouts, but never mind. They went in the bin.
But you can't even save those, can you? It's not like, oh, we'll mix them up with something else. No. Well done.
No, so it's normally my sister and her family, and she's got young kids, and then me and my teens and my folks. But my sister's going to her in-laws, so it's going to be a bit different because it's just going to be me, the teens, and my parents. But it'll be lovely nonetheless. And I'm a big one that once Christmas Day comes, you just have to relax into it. If you didn't get all the presents, if you didn't do all of the stuff, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Being with people is what really matters. I did a little post about your presence is the present, and I do think that your time is priceless. All the stuff that you buy people, sadly they'll probably forget, but they'll never forget how chilled and lovely and happy and embracing of whatever happened you were on Christmas Day. So yeah,
I've had a lot of messages recently. I can't remember what it was. I think it was on the back of a Mental Health Monday I did last week. No, I did a couple of stories because people were saying I can't afford much this year. I just can't do it, or they've not got the Christmas spirit or the magic or whatever. And I said it doesn't matter what you buy them. If you buy stuff from charity shops, that's fantastic. If you can afford to buy things from Harrods, that's fantastic. It doesn't matter where it's from or how much you spend. It's the thought of it. And if you can't afford it, it does. Kids, I don't remember what I got when I was a teenager, when I was 10, 5. I don't remember, but I remember the family came around or family friends that came around, and I remember the memories of it. And that's what I like about Christmas. It's not about the presents, but society shoves it down your face.
Yeah.
That it
One
has
of
to
our
be done.
highlights actually last year with the 2 little nephews was totally priceless, didn't cost a penny. We walked around the streets and looked at everyone else's Christmas lights.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And I remember that so well. I don't remember the presents,
No.
but I remember doing that.
I attempted to build a gingerbread house yesterday. Did not go well. It did not go as planned.
Brilliant.
The roof kept falling off, didn't it? And it just wouldn't stay up. But it doesn't matter. Like, I had fun doing it. Logan was a little bit kind of like, what is going on?
Top tip for that actually is cocktail sticks. You can use cocktail sticks to hold it in place while it dries.
Yeah, see, we should have done that.
Yeah.
I think it might have been the icing. Well, no, I'm going to blame my husband for this because he was the architect.
Okay.
He's the one that cut out all the shapes, so I'm going to blame him and say he didn't do it right.
Love it. Love it.
Well, you did make the wall a bit short, but that's okay. It's fine. It's life. It was an accurate representation of life, that things don't go to plan, but it's what you make of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Well, thank you so much for spending time in your cold truck. I hope you're not too cold.
No, not too bad.
Having a chat. And if you've got much planned for the rest of the day, or just kind of milling about?
Today's my last day of work, so no client work, but of kind of finishing up scheduling stuff and sending emails, and then on the homework, wrapping up, going to supermarket, all those bits and bobs, and then I want to enjoy from tomorrow.
Oh, so, supermarket. Oh, yeah. I don't envy you on that one.
Well, the one thing I've got to be careful in the supermarket is the horse trod on my toe literally about 2 months ago, but I think I might have broken it. And the other day in the supermarket, totally ADHD overwhelmed. It smelt, it was noisy, there were lights, there were too many people, there was too many and I accidentally kicked the supermarket trolley, and I was like, oh my God, that's so sore.
It's where you just kind of stand there and you have to like just breathe like, oh God.
Yeah, really sore.
Yeah, so maybe just walk with the trolley, like, right.
Can you use it like a Zimmer frame? Don't come near me. I've got a poorly toe.
Please don't. I can't do it. Oh, bless you. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And talking about grief and such and so forth this close to Christmas as well. I know it's a really hard subject for anybody at any point throughout the grief process. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
That's okay. And my top tip is if it all gets too overwhelming over Christmas, there is a little bit of magic in having time out for the parent, like whether that's literally just go stand outside and lean against the wall and breathe for 5 seconds, or whether that's finishing your cup of tea whilst it's still warm, or just having time out for the parent, because sometimes we can get really overwhelmed, and I've noticed when I'm really overwhelmed it adds fuel to the fire of the kids. So my top tip over Christmas is time out for you.
I love that. I'm gonna go for a nap. No, okay. Well, thank you so much. I hope that you have an amazing Christmas, that you do enjoy it and make wonderful memories.
Thank you. I wish you a lovely Christmas too, and I hope those boys have all the TLC and hugs they want over Christmas.
Yeah, we're gonna see Nana, aren't we? You love your Nana.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
No.
Tomorrow we're gonna go see Nana Rihanna. So
Nice.
we'll go down there and destroy her house. Destroy her house instead of this house for a change.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Nice. Okay.
Take care.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.